Everyone, welcome to the CAMI virtual ISTE booth. My name is David Hotler. I am the community manager here at CAMI, and I'm so excited to be welcoming to the stage Dr. Natasha Blades. Dr. Blades is a digital learning coach in Newton County, Georgia, in Covington, Georgia, Newton County School District, excuse me. And Dr. Blades is here to share how careful planning with Book Creator can enable every student to bridge the gap between their brilliant ideas and their ability to actually share their voice. Dr. Blades, it's an absolute pleasure to have you join us. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. I'm really excited about your topic, and I'm going to let you take it away.
Well, thank you. Well, hello, friends. Thank you again for being here. And I'm super excited to share about this topic, and I'm sure it's going to be something that you can relate to. So as educators, we have all experienced that frustrating situation of planning an incredible lesson or assignment, providing those clear directions, and then setting a timer. But what happens? 10 minutes later, a student or students are still staring at that stark blank white paper or completely empty computer screen. So today, we're going to dive into the bandwidth breakthrough, eliminating the blank page. We're going to change how we view that student paralysis and unpack how tools like Book Creator can help us engineer classroom environments where no student ever has to start at absolute zero. So let's go. So to set this roadmap, we're going to briefly ground ourselves in what universal design for learning is and why it matters before diving into some hands-on strategies that you can use with your students. But first, let's look at the science behind the blank page before we reframe it. So when that student is staring at that blank page, it is rarely a behavioral issue or lack of intelligence. It is, however, a cognitive bottleneck. First, it triggers executive dysfunction. The brain simply cannot figure out how to initiate the task of getting started or organizing their thought without that initial runway. And that's usually when you get those behavioral issues. Second, it creates immediate anxiety spike. So that's when students feel that pressure of being perfect from that first word, and it completely freezes the student's work and memory. And finally, it causes cognitive overload. So too many open-ended choices lead directly to decision fatigue. And our job isn't to tell them what to write, but it is to design a learning experience that lowers that emotional and cognitive tax before they even begin. So this is where Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, comes in, and especially for ELA and literacy instruction. So UDL is an evidence-based framework, and it reminds us that designing those learning experiences, we should inherently accommodate all learners from the start. And we do this by using the 3 pillars. And those pillars are multiple means of engagement, representation, and expression. We transition from a one-size-fits-all model to an equitable learning environment. We aren't watering down the curriculum. We're removing those hidden barriers to access so all students can show what they actually know. I want us to pause right here for a second. And I want us to really sit with this reflection question. So how often do we attribute student struggles to difficulty of a subject matter when the issue may actually lie in the design of the learning experience? So think about that for a second. And as you think about that, think about a traditional ELA classroom. So in that classroom, a standard writing prompt doesn't just assess students' reading comprehension or writing skills. It also assesses their working memory capacity, their processing speed, and their executive function stamina. So if a student has that brilliant idea, but they're struggling to type or organize, a blank page becomes a creative dead end. But when we use tools like Book Creator to engineer what I like to call thinking frames, we can ensure that a student's processing challenges never gets in the way of their actual intelligence and creativity. So, what does this look like practically in Book Creator? If we use a UDL checklist, we want to make sure that we hit all three areas. For engagement, we want low stakes starts and scaffolds. For representation, we want audio, visual, and flexible formatting. For expression, we want multimodal options. So as you can see in this matrix, Book Creator is practically built for this. So voice recordings give students multimodal means of expression. The built-in audio tools support representation, and the ability to manipulate fonts, colors, and outlines that allows us to optimize the visual environment for visual processing as well as dyslexia. And then features like stickers and shapes and template that turns passive writing tasks into interactive scaffolded experiences. So when we're ready to build a UDL aligned project in your classroom, you can use these few simple steps or action plans. First, just like you normally would, we have to look at the data and look at, think about our past formative, informal and formal observations. And this helps us to identify where the students get stuck or disengage. So think about, is it the brainstorming phase? Is it the drafting phase? And once we know what that bottleneck is, step 2 is that we scaffold the how. And that is designing or grabbing a Book Creator template and locking that organizer so students can't accidentally delete the structure. And then step 3 is to layer it by embedding your own audio or video directions right onto the page. And then once we set that foundation, you can share that library or book link. And it's important that you get feedback and give targeted feedback. And then once you do that, you'll be able to watch the students create and see that initial friction of them getting started decrease and maybe even eliminate it. And so now that we have that action plan, let's look at our first concrete classroom strategy. And I like to call this voice first story mapping or summarizing. So the goal here is completely a low stakes oral drafting before the student ever touches a keyboard or writes anything on a piece of paper. So we simply get or create a template. And what you notice here is that I use transitional words because I want to model for the students how I want them to speak and to write. And so they have first, next, then, last. And they also have a word bank. So instead of forcing that student to write immediately, we have them click on that microphone tool and record their summary orally in each of those blocks. And then once their ideas are safely captured in that audio form, the student, a peer, or their teacher, they can go back and they can transcribe those ideas into text or add keywords and captions. But what we do here is we completely bypass that spelling and typing anxiety that halts the writing process for so many of of our developing writers. One thing also here is that these audios do give the students their directions, and so they can go back at any time and re-listen to those directions. Let's look at now our second strategy. So this is what I like to call layered text analysis. And this is a game changer for reducing cognitive load doing close reading before students even get to writing. So giving the students, instead of giving the students multiple pages of PDF with 10 different directions, we just simply import a text and then we duplicate it across pages. And by doing this, we focus on one cognitive task at a time. And so for the first page, we call this the raw text. So there's no formatting, no high demands here. It's just a clean space for a first read for students to get the gist of the passage. And then for the second page, the student flips the book and the text layer expands. And we focus on vocabulary here. So this is when you would pre-highlight critical tier 2 and 3 vocabulary, and then provide those definitions. And I did that by adding yellow blocks, and it helps to activate that prior knowledge without requiring the student to switch tabs to a dictionary. And then for our last layer is evidence and synthesis. And so students here are prompted to annotate. But notice we're aligned with UDL here because, again, instead of the students typing their response, they're going to record their audio or their video explanation detailing why they highlighted that specific line. And they can record their voice recording, and it synthesizes their statement. Synthesizing their statement, and it keeps that focus entirely on their comprehension and analytical skills instead of their writing or typing stamina. And for our third strategy, it is creating a multimodal project hub. So when it's time to assess summative understanding, UDL teaches us that unless we are explicitly testing students' ability to write a traditional essay, we should provide authentic choices in how they demonstrate mastery. So here is our project hub page. So students can choose their path. So if they want to write a traditional essay, they can, but they also have the ability to create a short edited video analysis, design a visual argument, or curate it with images and captions, or even record a podcast. So no matter what the modality they choose, they all are bound by the same rigorous learning standards and the same rubric. So remember, we want to align it to those learning targets, and those standards don't change, but the vehicle of expression does. And so beyond the lesson plan, we have to look at those built-in universal accessibility features that are right at our fingertips. So when we configure that book creator environment, we want to make sure that we also show the students how to use those accessibility tools. And that's something as simple as toggling on the dyslexia friendly fonts. And I have been guilty as an elementary educator of creating things that are cutesy, but we want to make sure that students can read and access the content. And so that also means increasing the font size, altering the backgrounds, and optimizing those visual contrasts. So as teachers, we should focus on designing universal pages that embed those sentence starters. Remember, adding a sentence starter doesn't take away a student showing you what they know. Also, if you're uploading a video, adding automated closed captions, and then as we saw before, adding video or audio elements so students can hear those directions, and providing graphic organizers. And this doesn't just benefit students that may need accommodations, but it benefits every single student that is in the room. So I wanted to make sure that I leave everyone with something actionable. So let's look at how it's scaled across K-12. So at the elementary level, we focus on building that independence. So again, a great way, it's those hotspots with those audio. And you may be thinking that students in younger grades can't do this, but it's just like with anything. You have to scaffold it, chunk it, model it for the students, and then they will be able to do it once you show them and work with them a few times. In middle school, we shift to facilitating choice and maintaining engagement. And so what does that look like? It looks like those multimodal journals, also having students create multi-step research reports. And then at the high school level, we empower true student agency. And so allowing students to build professional digital portfolios that they can take with them after high school. Also using peer feedback loops, and also having them to submit real world media artifacts like those podcasts we mentioned, or even interactive maps to support their text analysis. So I know as instructional leaders, we know that professional development is only as good as the action it inspires. So I want you to reflect on an upcoming lesson or unit, and feel free to use this reflection page and type in the sentence starters, or add a quick audio note and sketch out your thoughts. The next time you give a student a project, think about what is one concrete UDL strategy that you can use within Book Creator that will help you implement and ensure that no student faces a blank page. So think about it for a moment and feel free to share. And thank you for your time. Let's eliminate the blank page together. Thanks.
I love that. Let's eliminate the blank page. Dr. Blades, you are always so inspiring, and you definitely bring all of the receipts. This is tried and true practice here. So thank you so much for your time, your energy, and your knowledge. And folks, if you are out there looking for some more inspiration, you can check out the website ticking below, camiapp.com/ISTE-2026 for more inspiration and the full Cami ISTE experience. Dr. Blades, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, David.